Pelicans fall 135-110 to the Milwaukee Bucks. Before we get into the show, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Presented by DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of Boot Crew Media, and also Company Burger located 4600 Ferret Street and the Birdsall Law Firm. Chaz Ross joining me. Not much to really talk about tonight. We didn't recap last night's game because we had the back-to-back today. So we took off Saturday. Brandon decided to take off today. Pelicans are going now on an 8-game losing streak. Chaz, we'll start off with you first because I don't believe in punting games. I don't know why that's even really a thing, especially for a team and a franchise that's never been to a Western Conference Finals. I don't believe in punting games. Well, tonight comes out CJ, Brandon are out. I understand CJ. I really, really do. I completely understand CJ. For the last 2 months, he's been averaging 35, 36 minutes a night. He then had to carry the load without Brandon, without Zion, sometimes without Najee Marshall. So I get a day off for him. Brandon coming off a toe contusion. I'm almost positive the same injury as Najee Marshall, but Najee Marshall only missed three games. Brandon Ingram missed 2 months. He gets an off night. He played 29 minutes last night, 26 3 days ago, had two off days, and then was out tonight. And I came out with, I was a little surprised, Chaz. I was a little surprised that he couldn't at least give it a go tonight after this team's struggled without him. 7-game losing streak. He struggled since he's come back. He decided to take tonight off.
I wasn't really surprised. I think they mentioned it yesterday, and also, I mean, if you look at it, Bi is like one of the more coddled guys in the league. Like, he's not really like some put some dirt on it and let me go out there. He's not one of those guys. So it's like, oh, what day is it? I'll take a day off. Like, he's a guy like that. So I'm not really surprised at it. CJ, I thought CJ, I thought the last game he punted. I thought that was a bad move. This game, I thought it was a good move. Him, sitting down. JV as well. Got an opportunity to look at a couple of guys, but I think even with guys playing extended minutes, I don't think there's any more you can learn from this roster besides the fact that it sucks. Like, it's nothing you can take away from it. Like, so, hey, and I don't think Brandon particularly helps you. He didn't help you against the Wizards, so he's not going to help you against.
Well, I think he was coming back. That's why I want to see him get more reps and more playing time. That's what I was a little shocked about today because he is rusty. He's a player that takes a little bit of time to get his rhythm back, and so the more minutes and reps you get, the quicker you'll get back to your old self, Ross. That's why I was so upset that he wasn't playing today.
It's senseless, yeah, and I think Chaz mentioned this probably maybe going back 2 or 3 weeks now about how and that Brandon's not good enough for the treatment that he's getting. I don't think it's not. He's a really, really good player, and I'm not trying to diminish that. I'm not trying to say, bro, Brandon sucks or something like that. That's not what I'm saying. But he's being treated a little bit like a LeBron or like a somebody, or
LeBron plays back to backs,
or what the Warriors do with Steph or something like that, where it's like, we don't like. Do I need to remind someone when the last time? Like, none of these dudes have won a playoff series. Like, I mean, and I'll address what happened, before the telecast started in a little while, but like. There doesn't seem to be a sense of urgency right now. That to me is scary. That to me is troublesome. Like,
you mean like on the court?
Both, on and off. Like, there's just not a sense of urgency. There doesn't really seem to be a sense of like, yeah, look, we started off the year playing pretty well. We've been bad. I mean, we've been bad. Because I think some people are being fooled a little bit by the fact that we've made some, like, we've in the fourth quarter made some of these games close that we've lost. Has there been a game in the last like 3 weeks where we weren't down double digits?
That I know of. I mean,
I mean, you're really not playing games that are that close, and I think is what I'm getting to, and the fact that there's just not a sense of urgency from your star player, star players, from the head coach, starting to look at the front office here about what are we going, are we going to do something here? Are we just going to kind of ride this thing out? I mean, what are we doing? That for me is what's frustrating.
yeah. Christian Clark actually just tweeted something, and I think Chaz, you're right on it. But now the Pelicans, after being in first place about 2.5 weeks ago, are now in 8th place and behind the Dallas Mavericks and tied with the Suns and only a half a game ahead of the Utah Jazz, which are at 10. And I think, Ross, you nailed on the head. There's just no sense of urgency. That's what I don't understand. Now, yes, tonight maybe possibly we're probably going to lose that game even at full strength. It's at Milwaukee. That's a tough game, but that's not the point. I just don't think you're at a point where you can just punt games. I don't know when that came into our vocabulary.
Hey,
I have no clue.
I'll make the story uglier for you. We're 51, what is it? 51, 52, 50 games into the year. I mean, well over halfway of the year now. Like, dude, you're 2 games out of 13th. 2 games out of 13th. Like, if this little extended streak goes on too much longer, there's only 15 teams in the conference now. Just a quick reminder, just a little reminder there. You're 2 games out of 13th. Where's the, like, if you're not, and this was what really bothered me. Let me just go ahead and get into it now. This is what really bothered me about AD's thing before the game. There's no sense of urgency. We're playing like we're just rolling along, 10, 12, 13 games over 500, and everything's all hunky-dory, and, oh, yeah, we got a couple guys out. Where's the, like, is no one else worried about the way we're playing? Like, keep the same energy? What energy? What are you talking about? I mean, we've been following the team. We cover this stuff. It's not like we're not fans. It's not like we're jumping off of the bandwagon. I hate that word too. Like, we're jumping off of the bandwagon. We're readily on it, but we're able to look at things and evaluate them on the whole, right? I mean, I think at one point he said something along the lines of what this team accomplished last year. What did we accomplish last year?
2 playing game wins. 2 wins over the Phoenix Suns.
36-46. And we lost the first round playoff series. 3 years ago, we wouldn't have been in the playoffs, Justin. There was no the play-in thing. Just because they decided to let more teams in, we have not made the playoffs from the way we were supposed to make it. Okay, now granted, I get it. The rules change. We didn't win a playoff series last year, so like, yeah, was I happy about the way sort of, the fact that we played better down the stretch? Well, of course I was. I think that was great. We took steps in the right direction last year. I think in the last month and a half, we've taken steps backward. I think our young guys have played demonstrably worse. And this whole, like, thing about how, like, when the team is playing bad, like, people are allowed to say, man, we really stink here lately. Just the same way, 2 months ago, we were saying, hey, we look really well. If this carries on, we're going to be a dangerous team. There ain't nothing dangerous about us right now at all. So, yeah, don't feed me the whole, like, keep that same energy thing. Yeah, I'm going to keep the same energy. I think we're playing terrible, and that's evidenced by the fact that we've lost 8 or 9 or however many in a row now. So
8 in a row.
I don't know. That really bothered me. It's the whole thing. Like I said, we can't. I'm very much capable of putting context behind things. He used those words, context. The context that he used was, well, you've got to look at things and say it's hard to win in the NBA without your stars. Do I need to tell somebody that our stars historically don't play? I don't know that Brandon's ever played 65 games in a season. Zion has had, like, in his 4 years, has played 120 games or whatever. Like, these are not things that we're just making up just to be at Grumps or something. Like, these are things that have been happening over time. So just because people got a little optimism, like, this roster is not going to win a championship. That's a news flash for anybody that doesn't, like, that didn't know that. The roster as it sits today ain't going to win a championship. And so things have to change. We have to keep improving. And I don't want that to get lost in the whole thing. Like, yeah, I want everybody to get healthy and I want to play better. But I don't know. I don't love the way the last, like, 3 weeks have gone with this whole, like, hey, we can't do anything because we don't want to mess up the chemistry. chemistry that has us playing terrible? I don't. What am I missing here, Chaz? What am I? I don't understand.
Before, I'm gonna let Chaz go, but I do want to shout out Kyra Lewis tonight. Went 7-11 from the field, scored 15 points. He looked really good tonight.
Shout out to him.
I think he should be getting more minutes. But Chaz, you can go ahead.
You guys seen The Last Dance with Michael Jordan? Mike said that always stuck with me. It takes a real man to talk crap when a team when it's 0-0 or when he's behind. When he's losing, I've been saying this for a long time, and feel like the chickens have come home to roost a little bit. The sad thing about it is that, again, it's still almost impossible to evaluate the team. And the crazy thing is, at this point, it's pointless beating up on the front office, right? Because the baby's been born already. Like, you know what I'm saying? You came into this season ill prepared. I think this coaching staff has gotten increasingly worse because certain things transfer, right? The defensive intensity, your rebounding, things like that should transfer. You know what I'm saying? Your discipline, your effort, those things should transfer. And to Ross's point, you don't always see that. I think tonight, Kyra had like just as many rebounds as like JV and Jax combined or something outrageous like that.
Kyra had 6 rebounds. Giannis had 3. Trey had 2. Alvarado had 3.
And I don't want and Chance, I don't want to. I'm sorry to cut you up. I'm not talking about tonight because I think the Bucks are just a tremendously bad matchup for us. Like my whole thing that I just went through has nothing to do with tonight. I don't know that we can beat the Bucks like at full strength. It's just a really, really bad matchup for us.
Yeah, I totally agree. But to me, even some of these things, when I look at I go back to the Utah double, right? When I look at that particular, those 2 particular games really told me a lot about this team, because prior to that, it was like, oh, look how great and how deep this team is. Then we lost those games, and it's like, yo, we gotta get Brandon back. It's like, wait a minute. You should be able to handle Utah without Brandon. If you're only a good team when you're 100% healthy, it's like then you're not a good team. Like it can't be a situation where things have to be ideal for you to succeed. And that's why I kind of question some of the coaching decisions and things like that. As far as keeping the same energy, I'm like, hey, my energy is always pretty consistent. You play good, I'm compliment you. Play bad, I'm gonna say you play bad. And,
that's the point of, and that's what I want to like drive home here for all of our followers and subscribers and things like that. When we play good, we're gonna tell you play good, but it's hard to be positive right now when you're in an 8-game losing streak. Brandon and Zion have played 12 games together since Willie Green's been the head coach. There are changes that need to be made. These are things that we're trying to literally light bulb goes. Like, yeah, we're all fans of the team. Like, we love the team, obviously. But this is a problem right now. And when you drop from 1st to 8 in 2.5 weeks, and you have Zion's second reevaluation comes out, I think, February 7th. Brandon's he can't play back-to-back right now because he's been out 2 months. There are a lot of questions that need to be addressed, which is going to lead to my next point, which I'm really excited to talk about. Ross, I tweeted this out yesterday just to start. I wanted to put out the gif of in Mean Girls, whatever that girl is staying at the top of the stair with anarchy going on. I put out who's at the trade deadline, who's untouchable, who's and a riot ensued. In your opinion, who's untouchable?
Zion. That's it. That's it. That's the only player. I mean, I realistically, like, I don't want to get rid of I can maybe add CJ in there, but I don't like. I'm not one of these people and I've been saying this now for weeks, Justin. That like, I think to a certain extent, some of our young guys have gotten a little bit exposed this year. I think it's called us, like I said, sophomore slump. I don't know if it's the league sort of being able to evaluate them, getting a lot of tape on them. I don't know what it is. I don't know if they're just not playing well. I don't, and this, you can go back years on this. I've said from the jump, I think that the Zion Williamson window is like till he's maybe 25, 26. ish. I think you've got like a 3 to 5 year window. Like, and it's like you're in it. Like it's not like in a couple of years the window starts. Like you're in the window. I'm doing whatever I can to win a championship in the next 3 to 5 years. Whatever I can do. Really, even 2 to 4 years. So for me, I'm getting players that can help me win titles like next year and the year after.
So I want you to elaborate a little bit more because one of our subscribers said, like, when we talk like this, like, who do you want then? Who would you like to see next to Zion then? Like, if these are guys, right? They're like, well, obviously you always want to bring in players that want to help you a championship, right? But who is that guy? Who are guys?
It's. I mean, I hate to like cop out and not answer your question, but it's because there's a difference in what I think we should do and what I think we will do. Like, I don't think we're going to trade Brandon Ingram in the next week. I don't like CJ McCollum is not getting traded. Like so you have all of these things that just aren't going to happen. Whether I think we should or we shouldn't, like they're just not going to happen. So I'm not like I haven't gone through the whole league and said like, well, what could we get if we traded Brandon Ingram? What could we get if we packaged up Dyson, Trey, Herb, and wanted to go big game hunting? Like I don't know, and I'm happy to like look and see. There's a lot of players that I think would fit great next to Zion. I don't know how many of those guys would be available. So it's sort of like an academic exercise to a certain extent. But my point is this roster, as we have seen it this year, is not going to win a championship. I think fully healthy, we're a good team. We're a good to very good team. I think they need to be aggressive in continuing to improve the roster with NBA ready, like players that are ready to contribute in a very, very meaningful way. We've talked about it for months. When you get to the playoffs, 6 or 7 guys, maybe 8. Like, don't need 10. So if you're telling me I could package up some of the things, that hadn't played that well this year, or some of these picks and get another fringe all-star, another guy like what we did last year with CJ, like a fringe-ish all-star, I'm here for that all day.
Chaz, I'm very excited for this. I think it's probably the same.
Nah, truthfully, I'll say even Zion's available at the right price. No one's ever untouchable, right? I say today Zion is probably the most untouchable, but man, look again. Brandon's never was that good. Like I have to always reiterate this. He's never been that good.
Hold
like
on. When
Trey,
you say good, no, like overall,
good, like he's a fringe all-star at best. Look at how he made it to the all-star game. Possible top 15 guy, maybe. You know what I'm saying? You would have to tell me all of the small forwards and 2 guards he's better than, and that list is going to be extremely short, and it's getting worse every season. Because it's getting longer every season, because even if you wanted to trade Brandon right now, his value's in the mud. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, no one's going to put
his values in the mud.
His values in the mud far as before. You may could have convinced the team to do an even B.I. Shea Gilgeous-Alexander swap. Now you're adding picks to that. No one, like, OKC might hang up in your face. This was supposed to be the year Brandon took the next step. What is he in? Year 7, year 8 now? Like, come on, bro. You're a number 2 pick. Get out of here. I don't care how old he is. How many years have you been doing this? That's what matters. How many years have you been professionally playing basketball? That's what matters to me. Trey, again, to Ross's point, you could have just got some guys who knew how to play already. You know what I'm saying? I said this last night. I don't understand the arrogance of this front office to think you have 2 and 3 years to develop guys when you don't have a track record of developing guys in the first round. Again, Jax tonight, awful. Jax the other night, didn't play. Kyra tonight, pretty good. But you've seen Kyra be decent, maybe a handful of games in the last 3 years. You know what I'm saying? These are top picks. Dyson right now is out with injury. Of course, that isn't his fault. No, wasn't very good when he was here. I think right now this team's main focus should be liquidating assets that still have value and building the team exclusively around Zion in the short term. I think this window is this year, and you have about 2 more years before Zion ultimately requests out. And I think you got to get rid of Brandon. Like, I'm gonna just say it. You have to get rid of Brandon because it is not to knock Brandon. Kudos to him for the things he was able to do last year. You know what I'm saying? But reality, this is business. This is business. If I stop doing shows on this network and I call Justin, like, yeah, I just don't feel it today. You know what? I'm gonna get fired. That's what's gonna happen. I won't be doing any more shows. So with Brandon, it's like, bro, I mean, we know what you're capable of, but you have to be available to do it. And so far, you haven't been available to do it. I look at it like this. To me, this deadline is where you make your first domino into moving Brandon this offseason or at the next deadline. Because it's almost inevitable at this point. Brandon would have to take a total 180 and become a top 15 player. I don't think top 25, top 30 is going to cut it anymore. He'd have to be a top 15 player, and I don't think he can do that, truthfully. If you go get a John Collins or OG Anunoby, you're getting John Collins, and you're just recruiting talent, and the next move is going to be to move Brandon for another guy who you believe is like the final piece of this team. I don't think CJ is movable because of his contract right now. I think he has a lot of equity with the franchise right now for choosing to come here, and maybe he has really probably respected voice. But JV, Devontae Graham, all these guys, them leaving is inevitable. I don't even concern myself with their performances anymore because I know like they're out of here. So like what's the big deal? Like, yeah, it's in closing, no one's untouchable, but the closest thing you have to being untradeable is Zion.
Look, it's not as dire. My opinion on it's not quite as dire as Chaz's, but he makes I think you make a really good point in that what happens this All-Star break. Now, I don't think it necessarily leads into you trading Brandon, but I do think the things that happen during this All-Star break are going to lead into changes this offseason. Because I think you've seen the few gaps, right? Because there are some gaps. And because Zion, Brandon, and CJ take up so much of the cap, you're not as flexible as you think you are. You really aren't. To bring in anything big, you're going to have to do some cap gymnastics. And the young guys need to continue to play better, one, or you're not going to be able to bring in a bigger player. And two, we really do need to get healthy because they've got to see how it fits. Because, like I said, those three guys are locked in long term, and you don't have a ton of flexibility after this year when it comes to those guys. Because Herb Jones is going to have to get paid if you think he's part of the future. Somebody's going to have to play center. I mean, you're not nearly as flexible as you think you are. And if you do want to drastically change the roster in some way in a year or two around Zion, one of those three are probably going to have to move on. And, the one thing we've talked about it before is the Warriors set the wins record and then let a very, very young player go. It was part of them winning 72 games. Dished off Harrison Barnes so they could bring in Kevin Durant. It's great to be attached to your team, but you got to be attached at a level that lets you be a fan without being delusional about what your team ceiling is. We can raise our team ceiling. It can be raised.
What would you say to I guess start with you, Chaz. What would you say to somebody that's just like, well, this is just, 0-8, it's a roller coaster, right? Like, they'll bounce back. They just have to get healthy. What would you say to somebody like that?
Man, with me, I'm a person who's all about context. All about context, right? They were barely we were about a 500 team when we were healthy.
When you mean full strength, right?
With 100%. Yeah, big three, right? I'll just say the big three, right? And what's it, 12 games? It's really like 10 and a half games. Brandon goes out in the first quarter of one game, goes out in the second quarter of another game. Zion goes out in the third quarter of another game. It's really about 9-10 games, right? I'll say this: I didn't think this team was that good when they were 100% healthy. I thought the pieces just didn't fit. Right? I didn't talent wise. I thought they were each individual player is extremely talented. I think Brandon is an extremely talented player. I just don't think Zion, Brandon, JV, and CJ fit as a collective. I always thought those pieces didn't really work well together with what each guy's skill set is. Right. I thought Brandon's skill set was probably the most fluid out of everyone because I think Brandon's a really good facilitator. But honestly, I just I don't think I need to see anymore. I think the front office tried to make a couple moves happen and it didn't work out. They probably got saved from themselves a couple times. But I think now if you told me Brandon was going to play 60 plus games, not including the playoffs next year, I'd take it. I'd be like, hey, let's keep him. But you can't, of course, you can't promise me that about anyone. But if you are going to be a guy that I can't rely on, you better be a top 15 bona fide stud when you do play. It's not really that bad, though, to be honest. This is business. Look, DeMar DeRozan, incredible player for years in Toronto. When it came time to win, they moved on from him. This happens. Like, it's business.
I guess I'm just kind of like there's just nothing going on. There's nothing good to talk about. Like, it's the same way. Like, you lose just over and over and over and over again. Sooner or later, something has to change. Whether it be at the trade deadline, whether it be, I mean, you have no other option. The trade deadline's what, in 2 weeks?
When does the bleeding stop?
Right?
Huh? We said I've done this the last 4 or 5 shows. Okay, so from about the middle of this losing streak to now, and I keep asking the question because I don't have the answer. When does the bleeding stop?
You mean like when do we get a win?
When do we get a win? Or do we get a win streak?
I don't think the way we're playing right now. I don't know that we can beat Dallas. We sure as hell probably ain't gonna win. Not gonna win in Denver. The Lakers coming back. The Lakers coming to New Orleans. They always are pissed off. They're gonna be pissed off coming to play here. You don't think Anthony Davis wants to go for 50? I'm not. I don't feel great that we're gonna win that game. The Kings. Yeah. I mean, at some point we're gonna win. Okay. At some point, like this is going to end. But that's a scary thought for me when you start thinking about we lost to the Wizards. I don't feel great about a game against the Mavs. I don't even think the Mavs are good. In fact, I think the Mavs suck. And I don't feel great about us winning that game. I don't feel real comfortable about us winning a game at home against the Lakers. Like, that's where we're playing. This was my problem a little bit with AD's thing before the game. It's like, I don't feel great about the way we're playing. Like, who can look here and say that they feel good about, like, because not every loss is the same.
Right.
This is an 82-game season. We've watched a ton of basketball. Not every loss is the same. Not every 3-game losing streak is the same. Shit's going to happen, okay? The Boston Celtics, I think, have lost, 4 or 5 or something in a row?
Yeah, before the other night, yeah.
Yeah, right. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Not every losing streak is the same. This team wasn't going to win 75 games or something. Like, we were going to have a streak somewhere in the year where we lost 4 or 5 in a row, okay? That's not the problem here. The problem is the way we're playing and how we look and the fact that the guys that are historically always injured are, surprise, not playing. Like, that's the problem. And so, you're 50-something games into the season. I don't really know. It's like, you can just only, the frustrating part is when you start talking, Justin, about, well, what can you do? Who should we look at? How can you evaluate this team? Everything else. It's like, at a certain point, it's the same thing we've talked about with Michael Thomas. You can't go into the offseason anymore and look at the Saints roster and say, well, man, we should be, we might actually be straight at wide receiver. We've got Olave, we got Michael Thomas coming back, and we got, Shaheed, whatever. You can't do that because he's not going to be there. You have to be able to evaluate the roster on who you can trust. People are going to roll ankles. Shit's going to happen. You have to be able to evaluate the roster on what is known. What do we know about these guys at this point?
I think
very good players, but not a lot of. It's hard to build continuity because they just don't play that much.
There is no continuity. Then people are to all the people, by the way, that there's also no practice time. Like, there's no.
Yeah, this is during the season.
This is why I'm so upset with Brandon Ingram. It's like he's clearly gassed the first two games back. Mm-hmm. I'm like, you're not going to get your endurance back at practice. Like, you barely practice. You have to start playing games.
Would you have rathered him tonight I would. This
Just
always
get
bothers me.
25 minutes.
Just go play the first half.
Just get a
Go-
couple shots
go
up.
blow
I
it
don't
out in the first half.
care.
That at least that is explainable to that makes sense to me. It's like, hey, look, we're working this dude back. It's the second night of a back-to-back. Like, Brandon's only playing till halftime. And then that's it. That's a wrap. Win, lose, or draw. And if it's like, all right, I mean, that's what's up. Like, they're just going to let him get his work in the first half. It's like when
You got zero
pitcher,
work in today besides
that's
a
what I'm saying.
pregame shot.
It's like when a pitcher comes back, right? A pitcher comes back and they're like, hey, man, pitch limit. You're throwing 50 pitches now. You're going to start the game. You're throwing 50 pitches. I don't care if you got a no-hitter going. You coming out at 50 pitches, hell or high water. Like, that at least makes sense to me. That's like, oh, yeah, you got to work him back in. Like, got to pitch. Like, the only way, hey, you're not going to get better not playing. You're not going to get in better shape not playing. Like, that makes sense. Taking the night off just really irked me for some reason. Like,
I'll say this. Floyd Mayweather used to eat pizza, used to eat chicken wings, used to party all night because he was Floyd Mayweather. He was arguably the greatest fighter ever lived. Brandon Ingram is not. You're not allowed that treatment. You're not that good, and this is why I have to keep reiterating this. It's because if Najee Marshall said, "I think I want a night off," you would be like, "What, dude? You got 1 foot in the league. Like, what are you talking about? You're not getting a night off. You better get out there and play." Like, no, like I just don't understand it. Like, truthfully, I don't necessarily have an issue with him having a night off. Right? My issue is that with the situation in totality. I looked at Chris Paul when he first came back. I looked at Cam Johnson the other night when he first came back. These guys are coming back balling. They came back balling. Like, it looked like they never skipped a beat, right? Brand, you come back, you're kind of stuttering, out the gates, and we keep giving him all this grace. Oh, give him a couple weeks. He's always rusty. Dude, like, who are you, bro? Like, you're not good like that. I don't care if you're always rusty. You don't deserve to be rusty. Let's keep it real. You won 36 games last year. You made it to the All-Star game as a reserve. You won Most Improved Player because you sucked your whole career, and it was a massive jump. You quit on your head coach and Stan Van Gundy, right? You are not that guy. You talk about Kyle Kuzma. You talk about Devin Booker. You talk about all these guys. Right? The thing, what Devin Booker does? He puts up numbers. When Devin Booker, he's hurt right now, but when he comes back, you know what? He's going to put up numbers. He's been to the playoffs several times. You had that cute, 6-game sample size, and guess what happened in the playoffs? He got hurt again. This is what he does. The dude is unreliable. We got to just keep it real about this guy. They won those games because I keep saying this. They won those games because Devin Booker got hurt. Devin Booker doesn't get hurt. The Pelicans probably get swept. That's probably what happens. Devin Booker, look, the one game this dude comes back, what happens? They lose. Oh, look, half of Devin Booker was better than 75% of Brandon Ingram. That's what it is. Let's stop pacifying this guy. Let's stop coddling this guy. He's not DeMar DeRozan. He's a Kyle Kuzma level type guy. You talked about Kyle Kuzma this offseason. Kyle Kuzma comes in this game and he kicks your ass. That's what happened. You're nowhere to be found. Last point, Ross. Last point. Minnesota game. Last 2 minutes. This dude had 13 points on like 18, 19 shots, right? Last 2 minutes, you scored 6 points. You held the ball for 20 seconds. Right? Took a fadeaway over 2 defenders and made the shot. Oh, he made the shot. That's tight. That's great. It was a terrible possession. This is not a good brand of basketball. You saw today with the 49ers, right? You saw today. Like, I don't know who the quarterback was at this point. It was some random guy. When Brandon's at the lead, it's some random guy throwing the ball. This is Zion's team. Zion's the best player. Everybody else has to go. That's what it boils down to. You need to go. You need to maximize Zion. Get these guys out of here, man. Let's stop playing around, man. Get these bums out of here.
Chaz, you got to make sure you drop your comments. That was at the third.
Like, dude, what are we doing here, bro? What are we doing? What are we doing?
Hey,
I can't continue the show. I can say it.
I do feel compelled. I know, Justin. I know you said you were mad at me earlier, but we gave up another 50 burger tonight.
Yeah.
Is Herb Jones guarding Giannis? Stop, dude. This is ridiculous. This
Hey,
is
who are the? No, wait, stop. No. This is important to me.
you got 1 minute.
Here you go. I'm gonna list the other guys that make first team all defense. Okay,
Right.
those guys guard everybody. Who's Marcus Smart guard when they play the Bucks?
Best guards.
No. Who's he?
He probably guard Giannis.
guard
Yeah, the rest of his team plays defense. So yes, Marcus Smart next.
Okay. Well, but how have we gotten so much worse defensively
because we have
last
really
year
bad
to
defenders.
Today? It's the same guys that played last year. It's the exact same team. We have the exact same team right now. We have the exact same team.
Okay.
Last year we didn't have dudes just ripping us for 40 and 50 a night. We get somebody hits us for 40 or 50 a night.
Yeah,
that wasn't happening last year. Like what changed? Like I don't know. You know more about the ins and outs. Like why is one dude just able to rip us to shreds every single night?
Answer the man, Justin.
I need that question answered. And I'm just saying, because I don't, and maybe I'm seeing too much basketball, and maybe this was happening last year, and I don't remember. I just don't remember last year with this exact same roster, because Zion wasn't here and he ain't here right now. Us just getting torched by one dude, and we get torched by somebody. It feels like every night.
It's actually a better roster. Last year you didn't have Larry Nance.
Do you think
have we changed?
Do you think it's schematic?
That's what I'm asking. Have we changed something about the way we're covering pick and rolls? Are we trying to cover the 3-point? I don't know the answer to it.
The drop coverage just gets blitzed every single time. When Jonas Valanciunas, he's just not a really good defender. CJ McCollum, not a good defender. Trey Murphy, not a good defender. Like the list goes on. Like Najee Marshall,
those guys are bad.
Najee Marshall, like he hustles really hard, but he's not necessarily a good defender.
Right.
Like Billy Hernan-Gomez, really bad defender. Jackson Hayes, really bad defender. Zion Williamson, really bad. Like the list goes on and on and on. Like you have two good guys.
Brandon's bad defender.
Brandon's okay. Like he's average. Like cool, but like everyone else like sucks. So I think it's just unfair. I think it's unfair to blame her. Let's wrap it up here. Chaz, that was just that rant was brought to you by Country Burger located at 4600 Red Street. Make sure you check it.
Don't put that on Company Burger, man.
That was special, Chaz. That's the best. When do you, Chaz and Ross, we'll close that out. When do you think the losing streak really stops? Like when do you think it ends? Seriously.
I'll go first, as I've been asking this question. I think you beat the Kings.
So you think this gets to 12?
I think you lose to Dallas. I think you lose to Denver, and I think
Denver, Dallas. Lakers would be 11. I'm sorry, so you get to 11.
Yeah.
You get to 11, you're in like 12. Chaz.
I think they can beat Denver. I think they can beat Denver. I say that. I'm not saying they will. I'm not saying they will. I think they can beat Denver just because Denver is like one of those teams that just like they just don't show up some nights. Like they just don't show up some nights. But I don't even know if Brandon's playing. I don't even know who's playing versus Denver. The best thing this team could do, right, is do a major trade so they have an excuse to lose the next few games. They go, oh well, guys got to get accustomed. What do you want? It's the only chance, right? But who they play after Denver?
They play
the Lakers at home.
Lakers at home.
You're at Dallas, at Denver, Lakers at home, Kings at home, somebody else at home.
At Dallas, at Denver, Lakers. Oh, I think they can beat Dallas. I think they can beat Dallas or Denver, to be honest. Truthfully, I think the Pelicans can pull one of those games off. I do.
Okay. Panic time. Listen, it's okay to have your own opinion. like that's like kind of like the last. Like it's okay to have it's really hard to be positive right now. Like, nothing's going well. All-Star break coming up, trade deadline coming up. Interested to see who the Pelicans go after. Once again, presented to you by Company Burger located at 4600 for Red Street and the Birdsall Law Firm. That's Chaz, Ross. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. You can follow us at Pro Pels Talk. Chaz on Twitter. Ross, I think yours is Boot Crew Ross. Is that correct?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I think so.
We'll see you later.
I hate Twitter.